Hello again everyone, Saka here, and last weekend, like many, I was able to participate in the Microsoft Flight Simulator 24 Alpha preview, testing the server load, loading times, all that good stuff for Asobo, and instead of showing off performance and how many cores were loaded and a comparison between 2020 and 2024, my goal for this video is to go over the footage and ask myself, is this a good possibility of playing a roleplay series for my channel? So the first big hurdle is, does it run? Of course, that's the main question of any new piece of software is, does the computer run it well? And I'm happy to report that it runs it extremely well, at least my system does, and I don't foresee any issues in playing it. So, into the roleplay aspect. First of all, does it have a character that we can take command of and live in the world? And yes, indeed, Flight Simulator 2024, of course, has a character creator, and it is an actual model that you walk around with. It's not a floating camera, which goes a long way for immersion. Of course, pre-flight checks are a part of every pilot's life. Got to make sure that aircraft is fit to fly every single time, and I think that would be a good time for me to discuss the plans for the flight, where we're going, what we're doing, and that sort of thing. So that is a positive. Next up, a sense of progression is definitely there as we go from license to license, unlocking the ability to fly new aircraft. So there we go, proceeding down a career. Of course, a truncated timetable is compared to the real world, but certainly starting in a Cessna, working all the way up to a 747 and larger would be a good goal for the channel, and getting some flight time along the way. So a lot of episodes to record there. So I know the licenses may have been a bit of contention for longtime flight simmers. For 40 years, we've been used to pick a plane, pick a place, and just go. We're not used to being told that you can't fly a certain aircraft or fly out of a certain airport until you are licensed to do so. And, I appreciate what Asobo's trying to do. What would be really cool is if you could take your flight hours from 2020 and get, just have a save game, and it says, okay, if you've got 500, 1,000, 2,000 hours, you would be up to this certain point, and, sort of speed up the process. But I can sort of get where you might have 2,000 hours in the sim and never flew anything bigger than a Cessna, or vice versa, 2,000 hours in the sim and you've never flown anything smaller than a 747. So in order to get people ready to do the certain missions as projected, to follow the exact course and the exact speeds that makes a mission successful, I do sort of see their approach. But let me know what you think about the licensing. As for me, it seemed like we could get through the licensing pretty quick. Got up to level 3 in just a couple of flights, hit a couple S-ranked sightseeing missions, and I could have gone on to the commercial pilot license, but ran out of time on the demo. So, when they say that you could get through your particular license in a night of playing 5 or 6 hours, it does seem like that is the case. If you're as competent as you say you are, you can get through it really quick. And leading to a sense of immersion, the first few flights that I've done in the career mode has passengers actually talking to you from the back seat, and that goes a long way for immersion and not feeling so alone as you move from place to place. A series like X4, I was joined by crew members who didn't exactly talk to me, but it was nice to look around the bridge of my starship and see people moving around, doing their work, and getting to know the pilots so we can get to know our passengers a little bit better. And eventually, when we purchase our own aircraft for our own company, hopefully getting to know our pilots. So my next questions that were not answered in the alpha was, how exactly does the company management work? When you get a second aircraft and you assign a pilot, do they fly only when you are playing? Do you tell them to take off while you play and they have a timer that sets their takeoff and landing time? Is it server-based where the pilots will constantly do their own thing even when you're not playing? Or is it something like X4 where you could leave your system running on all night and your pilots will just go about their business? Could it be something like American Truck Sim or Euro Truck where once you hire a driver and get a truck, they find their own jobs rest as they can and the money will trickle in? Or is it something where you set up a company route and you have them do shuttle runs back and forth from one airport to another multiple times per day, for example? One thing I did want to test while I had my hands on it was when you exit your aircraft, can you exit anywhere? And in fact, you can. When you're on the ground. I didn't try jumping out of the plane myself in the air, although we learned from that guy on YouTube that that is a terrible, terrible decision and never, ever, ever do that. But how far can you get away from an aircraft once you are on the ground and landed? So I just decided to walk in one direction for a good bit, seeing if I ran into any invisible walls or a cell a la Starfield where your plane becomes the center of the world and you could only go so far before you had to return. And from what I saw, it kept streaming the world as you walked, so you could Forrest Gump it and walk from one coast to the other seamlessly if you wanted to. I don't know if you could save your flight, quote unquote flight, while you're on the ground on foot and pick up where you left off if you did want to try to walk from Alaska down to Chile, but more power to you. But for the roleplay purposes, I'm asking because once you get a few aircraft in your fleet and they start making a good profit, you could then just be a small aircraft owner flying from tourist destination to tourist destination. You could walk beaches, find hiking trails, visit places that are restricted in real life to walk around while your company pays for your gas and time to do that. So that would be awesome for the role play as well, just taking a vacation out to a deserted island somewhere and thinking, this is paid for. And luckily, we won't be short on missions to do in our local area because there is enough Radiant quests in this game to make Bethesda blush. Missions spawn nearby based on the airports close to you, including helipads, I assume. So once you get your Whirlybird license, you might be able to do live flights to local hospitals, things like that. Does the game or sim realize that that is a hospital landing pad versus an executive helicopter landing pad? And if so, then you could be a medevac flyer or a business class flyer, which might be cool to dip my toe into. I'm not a helicopter pilot per se. I really haven't dabbled into helicopters much, but it's cool that option is there. And I just played around a bit, placing an aircraft on the ground, doing a cold and dark start, just plopping a plane in the middle of a city and seeing what I could see. And sure enough, everything loaded seamlessly and I was able to walk around. And the one cool part was visiting Las Vegas Motor Speedway and actually walking up into the grandstands and getting a good look at the racetrack and the mountains behind it. So I'm looking forward to times like that where I could go to iconic places and see iconic views, all the while my cargo planes are doing the work. I will say though, in order to feel really immersive, the photogrammetry would have to be better in the cities, but I think this sim will really shine in remote destinations out in nature where it can generate forests or lakes or streams or mountains, that sort of thing, away from photogrammetry. The photogrammetry I saw was okay, but you could definitely tell that it was stitched together from satellite imagery, not down on the ground, which might be immersion breaking, but still cool to stand in Victory Lane at Daytona and look up at the grandstands. But during the weekend, I couldn't really put as much time into it that others did, full streaming for hours and hours and hours, so I had limited contact with it. But from what I did play of the sim, it does feel like this would be a really cool roleplay series to do for my channel here on YouTube. If you would like to come along for the ride, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll be playing this in my own time because it is definitely an improvement over 2020 in every single way that I can see, as far as loading times and just missions, things to do, things to keep you engaged. But that will do it for me and my thoughts on Microsoft Flight Sim 24. It's definitely a day one purchase for me. The base game. I'm not going to splurge on the Super Collector's Edition. The only thing I really want is that 747, and I believe the C-17 Globemaster also comes in the base game, and that's really all I'm shooting for. Want to be a cargo pilot or a military transport pilot or commercial pilot. Don't need any of the extra fluff and floof. But let me know if you want to see a roleplay series on the channel where, of course, Lisa will take to the skies and earn her wings and, who knows, become the biggest airline in the United States, perhaps even the world. But that'll do it for me. Like, share, and subscribe if you are so bold. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you in my next video. Take care.